But first, devastating testimony today in the trial of former Penn State football coach Jerry Sandusky, accused of molesting 10 boys. Here now, attorneys and Fox News analysts Kimberly Guilfoyle and Lise Wheel. So from what I can see, and I'm not convicting this guy on TV, right, but this is just the testimony that's rolling in. No way Sandusky's going to ever see the light of day. He's done.
Yeah, Kimberly's laughing. I would totally agree with you. We've had two accusers who've taken the stand,
right,
and they tell in very great detail, which we're not going to go into here, what happened, that he was grooming them and all of this stuff, and piece by piece by piece. And remember, these accusers did not know each other before this trial.
Yeah, and it'd be impossible to impeach 10 people.
Exactly.
You know, there might be some that jump on the bandwagon, and that's what Michael Jackson's lawyer did in California. This is a totally different situation. Right. But, you know, what Sandusky's attorney is going to try to do is impeach the credibility of the witnesses, say you're just doing this because you want to sue civilly, you want to sue the university, you want to get a paycheck. Right?
Absolutely, because if they were able to secure this criminal judgment, then a civil lawsuit
right,
being successful is a slam dunk, basically. But think about the credibility of the witnesses. Like you said, they're not going to be able to be privy to the testimony of the others. When you have that kind of repetition coming forward with the same kind of
MO. Let me stop you for a minute. What Guilfoyle is saying is that the witnesses don't hear what has been said in front of them, okay? So that they're going to come in, the jury's going to hear all of these separate stories, that if there's a pattern of behavior will emerge. But there was a pattern of behavior in the Michael Jackson situation. There was, because it was so public, and everybody knew what the accusations were.
But there's a different jury at that point in time as well. We've got a whole different jury here. I think it's interesting because this jury, this jury, some people have said, well, they've got connections to Penn State, so they might be, you know, more.
No, they're not going to be.
But they're going to. I totally agree with you. They're going to be so mad.
They're mad that the university been besmirched and could turn over.
Yeah, he's not a pop star. Yeah, he's not a pop star.
Kimberly loves that song. Yeah. Kimberly loves that song. Yeah.
I was totally hooked on Court TV. That was Court TV in the good old days before all the talking heads came in, but you got mostly uncensored, real trial testimony, and it was fascinating to watch.
I've said many times since the verdicts that the reporting hit the bottom of the barrel. Not with everybody. We had very professional journalists, people I still call journalists, like Linda Deutsch and Mike Taibbi, NBC, and many, many good people who had high journalistic standards. We had Don Hobbs from the Santa Barbara News Press, who I think was trying to be very fair throughout the case and very professional. But we also had bottom feeders like Court TV, and we had people who showed up to report on the case who had personal vested interests in a conviction. Diane Diamond from Court TV had been sued by Michael Jackson in the mid-90s, very contentious litigation. Tom Stead and the DA had risen to her defense, signed sworn declarations in her civil case. They stayed in touch for a long time. She really identified herself with a conviction in all of her media work. She was their reporter for the case on a daily basis. She was reporting back to Lisa Bloom, the daughter of Gloria Allred, who constantly reports Michael Jackson and tries to get involved in anything he does, even when she has no stake in the matter. And of course, Nancy Grace was the third one on that show. So I think Court TV, who I'd been a fan of, you know, most of their existence. I thought Steve Brill was a very professional person. I used to order videotapes of examinations. If I saw a lawyer give something I wanted to study, for years I did that. I used to call a couple of times a year. And I really liked Court TV. But in this particular situation, they became a tabloid. They became an entertainment company and not a company devoted to professional journalism. And they hit the bottom. And I lost all respect for them. I wouldn't go on their show after the verdicts because I was so disgusted with them.
I'm a Court TV alumni. I watch Court TV. But I've seen,
Don't do it, Dan.
I've seen more people on Court TV. No, I want to get a sense of what a lot of the anchors there are saying about how this case has been going. I mean, I've heard, Nancy and Lisa and Kimberly express, some encouragement or some belief that the prosecution's case hasn't been going that badly. What is the sense over there as to how things have gone for prosecutors?
Well, Dan, I mean, I think my colleagues are somewhat predictable in their beliefs about how the case is going. And, you have people who are completely upfront that they have a prosecution or a defense bent. And, it's true not just of my colleagues at Court TV, but I think all of the reporters here covering the trial, if they have a certain way of looking at the case, they hear what they want to hear. They hear what they want to hear. So, I mean, to answer you quickly, I mean...
Come on, Savannah, that suggests that no one can be objective here. Come on.
Back in follow-up segment tonight, former Penn State football coach Jerry Sandusky has been hammered this week in court by witnesses who say he grossly molested them when they were children. Testimony has been harrowing. Sandusky's lawyers will get their turn next week, and they're going to put the victims on trial, saying they have all retained lawyers in order to sue Penn State. Joining us now from Boston, child advocate Wendy Murphy, and here in the studio, crime reporter Aphrodite Jones, who's been at the Sandusky trial. All right, is there any way at all, any way on earth, this guy is not guilty?
No way in hell.
And you say that why?
I say that because we've sat and listened to 8 accusers in court from the horse's mouth, from these boys who testified again and again to what happened to them, Bill, from starting with Sandusky holding their leg in the car.
We don't need to get too graphic.
I don't want to get graphic.
But okay, so all 8 came in and they told harrowing tales about this guy. Is it possible that they could have had, a theme that circulated around their lawyers telling them this is what we want you to say? Is that possible?
No, it's not possible. I'll tell you why. They each had different stories. The themes, there was a theme, but the theme ended where one person had a very one-time encounter, another person had years of encounter, another person had maybe an encounter that they hardly remembered and remembered later in a suppressed memory.
On cross, did Sandusky's lawyers make any headway at all in impeaching the witnesses?
This is what happened with impeachment. The Sandusky lawyers tried to impeach these boys.
Yes.
And the boys said, I told the grand jury less amount of times because I was suppressing my memory, because I didn't want to remember it.
So you don't believe that any of the witnesses were, like in the Jackson trial, some of them were shaky? These were all strong across the board.
There was not an iota of a doubt, not only in my mind, but at the jury's mind, I believe.
So, Wendy, now the court of public opinion, obviously listening to reporters like Aphrodite and almost everybody else, says, look, the guy's guilty. He doesn't have a shot to get acquitted. His attorney's got to try, and they'll try to say, look, this is a big lawsuit deal. They're going to go after Penn State. They're all in concert with one another. How should the public perceive this?
Look, the reason the guy's going to be convicted is because of what he did. The fact is it's an extremely strong case. It is not defensible. It's the defense attorney's nightmare because no matter how good you are as a trial attorney, you can't destroy the credibility of this much evidence, because even if there's a weakness in one case, the fact that there were 8 victims there telling, roughly speaking, similar kinds of stories rises the tide for all of them. There is no question the defense is going to try to poke holes in the 2 cases where the victims didn't show up. And they may well win acquittals on those 2 cases. When a victim doesn't show up, I think the jury's going to think, what's that about, right?
But if he's convicted on one, he's going
Bill,
away.
it's like getting an upgrade on the Titanic to win 2 of these cases. There are 52 counts. He's not going home ever.
Okay, so both of you are convinced 100% that he's going to be convicted and that he's guilty and that this case is pretty open and shut. There it is. He did it, and he's going to get what he deserves. Is that correct?
Yes, Bill, and here's a man who walked on water and used his being the second coming to children.
But that's how they all operate. Not all of them, but that's so many people operate that way.
He walked on water in Penn State, and he used it to take that and molest boys.
He's an evil, and I don't want to convict a guy on television, but if true, and I believe it's true too, I have to say, if true, he's just pure evil. There's no doubt, there's no excuse, whether he's a mental deficiency.
Mental deficiency? He wrote a book called Touched. That's his autobiography.
Yeah.
You should read it.
I'm not going to read it.
No,
It's a disgusting human being. Go ahead.
There's no mental health defense here, Bill. But one of the things I like about this case is that it has helped raise awareness for people who don't understand that kids often don't tell that when they are abused, they stay silent, that they behave in this way that for some of us doesn't make sense. This is such an important story that's going to help all of us better understand and believe victimized children.
Okay, but remember though, when we're enthusiastically hanging Sandusky, you've got the McMartin case, you got the Jackson case, you've got a lot of things that have happened in this country because the hysteria does grow over this thing. We have to be very, very careful and methodical in examining this stuff. Okay, but remember though, when we're enthusiastically hanging Sandusky, you've got the McMartin case, you got the Jackson case, you've got a lot of things that have happened in this country because the hysteria does grow over this thing. We have to be very, very careful and methodical in examining this stuff.
But Bill,
disproportionately,
go ahead.
Disproportionately, we don't believe children enough. You're right. There are cases where the truth isn't told, but if we need to improve, it's recognizing that this happens to millions of children every year.
Well, you know that's my point of view.
Almost
and that,
never do they achieve justice.
And we want Jessica's Law, and Wendy and I work together on that. Last word?
Last word, you can't equate this to the Jackson case because that was liars, and it was proven by Mesereau. And we know Michael Jackson was not guilty of child molestation.
That is not true.
In that trial,
those kids were credible.
We're not going to relitigate the Jackson case. We're not going to relitigate. All right, we're not going to do it.
He was acquitted.
I know that, and everyone knows it. We're not going to relitigate.
He's still guilty.
Here. Plenty more ahead as the Factor moves along this evening. Geraldo on a Texas. Okay, but remember though, when we're enthusiastically hanging Sandusky, you've got the McMartin case, you got the Jackson case, you've got a lot of things that have happened in this country because the hysteria does grow over this thing. We have to be very, very careful and methodical in examining this stuff.
There's no question we're going to see convictions here. Michael Jackson's nickname has always been the king of pop. I think now we'll start to call him the Teflon molester.